We have figured out that a single mom with 2 children who worked a minimum wage job here in Phoenix would have to work 120 hours a week in order to afford an apartment. We have found that 60% of our children are below their developmental stage, and 30% of those children have significant delays.
Look, if you want to get a handle on children, then you go 2 ways, because the government does collect, the Department of Education, number of homeless children in America. And I think they published kids in school about 800,000. Could be a little different now, but that sticks in my head. Then you take a look at the numbers and you find that the majority of children in homeless families are under the age of 6. So you plug that in, you're up to 1 million something in that number. As for families, they used 600,000 years ago. I don't know, but if I had to make a guess, I would say it's probably 1 million easy. 1 million and 1 million or 2 million kids easily. Your average family is 1.5 kids. There's no such thing as a half kid. So I say it's somewhere up there. And the other side is, what does it matter? Isn't one family enough to make the point? Family homelessness isn't on the street, because if they were, government has an obligation to remove the children. So they're not on the street. And family homelessness is the best kept secret in America. People don't relate to it or understand it. They know the adult. They see it. You don't see families. And people don't know that the typical homeless person in America is a child. If they knew that, they would ask questions. They would say, why? Where's my money going? Why isn't government addressing this?
We do know that a homeless family that comes to you, Mom, has moved 5.7 times in the last year, which means the longest they've been anywhere is 70 days. You can imagine the impact that that has on the children, knowing that every 70 days they're going to be living in a different location, and what happens to their schooling, what happens to their belongings. And many times when they're moving in with 2 or 3 other families in a 1-bedroom apartment.
What we've created in America are poverty nomads. We've taught people to be poor, and that being poor is a nomadic way of life. There is no low-income housing, and even if there was low-income housing, it would be very difficult for the population to maintain themselves. The majority of our women are not married. The majority of our women have 2 or 3 children fathered by different men. These are not traditional family structures, and the government, the federal government, is notorious for saying we want traditional behavior from these families. Well, you can't have traditional behavior till you give them time to assimilate it and what it is. You have 47% of our families are victims of domestic violence. You can't throw these people in apartments like people keep saying. Just move them to an apartment and it's solved. It's ridiculous. These families are not just in need of housing. This is really the bottom of the poverty ladder. If you're going to be poor in America in the 21st century, at some point you're going to be homeless.
Why, in this day and age, in our country, with all the advancements that we have, why are there homeless children on our streets? Why are there people hungry on our streets? That shouldn't be. Given what we know about homeless families, about homeless children, about the resources that we need, and especially the lack of affordable housing, something needs to be done. We need to prioritize families in this country, and we need to prioritize our children.
The federal government doesn't have a cohesive approach to homelessness. They say housing is the answer, yet they don't fund housing, and this is where homelessness really comes from. And then they started to defund all of the safety net programs, whether it be childcare, employment, all of these different medical programs, everything, food stamps, went down. And all that they did was institutionalize poverty into certain areas.
All the public programs to help poor people, like for example, food stamps, Medicaid, after-school programs where kids could go, they're so important because when you're poor, it's all you have.